Hello, everyone. Today we are learning about chiaroscuro, which is an Italian term that refers to light and shadows in art. We also consider that value, which is the lightness or darkness of a color. So I'm going to be creating a monochromatic drawing today, and I'm starting with black paper, and we're going to go from white to black. So I just figured using the dark paper. Um, and with value, when I say it refers to the lightness or darkness of a color, I have an example here. So I'm going to be using chalk pastels. You can see that all of these are blue, but you have a darker blue to a lighter blue. These refer to the values of the blue. And I'm just going to do a simple drawing. So I'm going to start with my white and just start by making a circle in the center of the paper. Now I'm going to use just the regular blue, and I'm going to make a larger circle around the outside of that. And it doesn't have to be perfect, obviously, mine is not. I'm going to start to color that in. And what we want to see eventually, I'm going to try to fill this in as close to as possible, is I'm going to be adding my white and the black till I get to this black outer ridge. So I'm kind of filling this in as my base all the way almost completely to the edge. And notice I'm using the side of my pastel. If you guys are using paint, again, you'd have to work kind of quickly like I am because you don't want the paint to dry, because wet paint only mixes with wet paint. Once it dries, it doesn't mix anymore. It's just painting on top of and layering. So I'm choosing to do this instead of, I could use these different already made values, but I'm going to go ahead and experiment with adding the white. So I have my straight white in the middle, my black paper on the outside, and my blue on the inside. But I want to see what starts happening when I add my white over top of the blue here. You see how it gets that lighter value? Now that's called a tint. So when you mix any color with white, you are tinting it. And when you add black, you are shading it. Just like when you're outside and you stand in the shade to get cool from the sun, you are taking away the light. Right? That's what a shade does. It takes away the light. So technically, instead of darkening a color, you are just taking away its light. So as I go, widen my circle here. I'm going to then take my finger. Now, if you're at home and you don't want to get too messy, you can always use a paper towel and gently cover your finger so that as you're blending, you're not mixing up too much. But I prefer just to use my finger. So that's what I'm going to do. And as I blend that around, you can see that not only is it getting the light to the darker values of the blue, but it's also kind of smoothing out that rough edge that you get when you use the chalk there. So it kind of gives you a more consistent color on your page. All right, so now you can see this, I'm going to blend that a little bit, that white and how it gets lighter to the regular blue and then to the darker blue. But before I get to that, I think I'm even going to go ahead and, even though I'm using black paper, do a little bit of the black pastel on the outside. And then I'm going to show you what happens when I start mixing the regular blue with the black pastel. And as you can see, art is messy, but that's okay. I'm again going to go back with my blue here just to add a little bit more so I have some to mix. And start layering my blue right on top of that black there. You can see the different color there. And we'll blend that here in a minute and see what happens. Now I'm going to go back and start to blend these in. And now you can really start to see the difference between the blues. I'm even going to go, I think this went a little too fast. Didn't get quite the gradation that I wanted. So I'm going to go back and add a little more blue. Mix that in so it looks a little more gradual. And then you can really see all the different values of the blue. So this would be a blue value, but it's also considered a monochromatic color scheme because I only used one color and then just changed its tint and its shade by creating different values. So this is something that you could use, and you could really see the lightness to the darkness. And it almost gives it a feeling of kind of radiation or sort of glow coming out from the center of the page. So there's an example of how you can use value scales. That sense of chiaroscuro in an object would be if you were shining a light on something like an apple or a piece of fruit and trying to draw it. Your highest point would be here, and then the darkest point to the shadows. So that's how you develop that gradation in light. So I hope you enjoyed this. I can't wait to see if any of you want to try something like this out. You don't have to do the same design. You could try doing stripes of color across or however you envision this to be. Until next time.